Number 3. Bluetooth EB3, a portable power station. Best budget solar power station. Having a good solar power generator doesn't mean you have to spend an arm and a leg, especially if you don't need something super powerful that can handle a whole house. The Bluetooth EB3A, as it's so creatively called, is a perfect example of that. It's something relatively small and portable that you can get for less than $300 at MSRP, and oftentimes less than $200 if you wait for a good deal. Of course, you do give up some capacity in the exchange, with it only having 268 watts, although honestly, even that's not too bad since it can charge your average phone 20 times or a laptop 4 times. Where the Bluetooth EB3 really shines, though, is in the capacity to be charged from solar energy, with its internal MPPT controller able to support up to 200 watts of charging. That will bring it up to 80% in about an hour and a half, assuming ideal weather, meaning that you could potentially use this all day long. Of course, if you wanted to use a more traditional wall charger, you could go up to as fast as 430 watt charging, which should fill it up in an hour. Either way, you can charge it to full capacity pretty quickly, and if you are mostly using it for phones, tablets, and laptops, you can very likely use it all day long with solar charging. Speaking of devices, the Bluetooth EB3A can handle 600 watts of output, which isn't as much as other solar power generators here, but it's good enough for the basics, and since it's made to be portable, that's what it's aimed at. As for ports, you have 9 to work with: 2 AC outlets, 2 USB-A, 1 100-watt USB-C, 2 DC 551 ports, and a carport. You'll notice that there's still one missing, and that's because the last and most unique port is the wireless charger, which isn't something you'll find in any other solar power station here and is a neat addition for those who have phones that can do wireless charging. Number 2. EcoFlow DLTA Pro, best whole house solar power station. Having something small and relatively portable is great if you only need to power a few small things for a couple of hours, but if you have somewhat more heavy-duty needs, like powering a whole house, then the EcoFlow DLTA Pro is the way to go. It's pretty massive, but that also means that it has a massive capacity of 3,600 watts, which is probably more than the average household would use in a day, but is the perfect option if you get regular electricity cuts and need emergency power for a few days. Even better, you can expand the system by adding more of the Delta Pros with an upper limit of 25,000 watts when you combine 6 of them, although the actual available capacity is 80% for EcoFlow, so keep that in mind. As for wattage, it's a very respectable 3,600 watts with the ability to go up to 4,500 watts with EcoFlow's X-Boost technology, which is probably more than enough to run several different devices in your home, including potentially ACs or washing machines. We don't really think you're likely to be using a washing machine in an emergency or backup power situation, but it's a nice option to have if you're dealing with a week-long power cut. Also, much like the capacity, you can expand the wattage with additional units up to a maximum of 7,200 watts, so it really is more than enough to power a whole home if you want to go that route. When it comes to charging, you have several options, such as charging through a wall outlet with up to 1,800 watts, which should take about 3 hours at that capacity. You can, of course, also charge with solar panels with a combined max input of 1,600 watts, which will also see it charged, in an ideal situation, in about 3 to 4 hours. The bundle that we're linking with the button below includes the DLTA Pro, as well as one 400-watt solar panel, so it will be slower, but there are a lot of bundled options at EcoFlow, so be sure to check them all out. Number 1. Jackery Explorer 1000 Best Overall Solar Power Station. Jackery is some of the most well-known and recognizable solar power generators, so it's no surprise that the Jackery Explorer 1000 made the top of our list. It has a lot of things that make it a solidly balanced option for many, from the capacity it has to the price tag it comes with. The 1000-watt capacity it can manage is quite a lot, and it can charge most things you can think of except, potentially, something like a microwave or a space heater that can go well over 1000 watts. Even so, it can power a wide range of devices, which is always a good thing. As for capacity, you get 1002 out of it, although in practical usage, it's only 85% of that capacity, which is pretty standard since most brands cap it at around that amount of capacity, which does help a bit with longevity. Either way, that still gives you around 851 watts to play with, which means a 100-watt device can run for 8.5 hours before the Jackery loses charge. Oh, and the best part is that it has pass-through charging, so you can absolutely charge the Explorer 1000 while using it, turning it into a UPS of sorts. Speaking of charging, the Explorer 1000 has an absolute ton of ports for you to work with. 3 AC outlets, 1 UVDA, one quick charge USB-A, 2 USB-C PDs, and one car outlet. There are also 2 input slots for charging, one for a typical DC input that you can use with a wall outlet or a car, which should take 8 and 14 hours respectively, and a solar panel input. The latter is great if you combine it with 2 of Jackery's Solar Saga 100, which can do 100 watts of charging each on a clear day, and will recharge the Explorer 1000 in about 6 hours or so, which is excellent.